Welcome to the Family Dynamics Podcast.
You have to just be willing to talk about these things, and you have to be willing to put it all on the table.
Learn firsthand from the power couple who's built a healthy relationship, from major and minor issues,
The good, the bad, the ugly,
to triumphs of the family unit.
In this day and age, you need somebody by your side.
Utilize proven techniques and strategies to help your relationship and family thrive to the next level.
you have to compromise.
This is the Family Dynamics Podcast with Kevin and Alicia Meeks.
Welcome to the Family Dynamics Podcast. I am in the home studio once again with the beautiful Alicia Meeks.
Hey, y'all, hey.
And on this podcast, we always talk about marriage, family, co-parenting, just all around family. And this is episode 13. And we got a really special guest today. And I really like this guest because we conversate often on social media, and he's kind of close to us as family. So I would like to introduce Minister Ernest James at Friend to Fatherless Daughters. Welcome, brother.
What's up? How you doing, family?
All right. So today we have you here on our podcast, The Family Dynamics. And basically, we were intrigued with it. We can start with just the name, Friend to Fatherless Daughters. So tell our audience who you are and what you do.
Okay, I am Minister Ernest James, aka Friend to Fatherless Daughters on Instagram, and I am a fatherless daughter advocate, as well as a male mentor. My male mentor page is Man Up Ministries, also on Facebook. I mean, not Facebook, also on Instagram. But for this particular specific, I'm trying to talk too fast. For this occasion, I'm gonna talk about Friend to Fatherless Daughters. Basically, it's a platform that I started after running into some issues in my marriage, and I found out, or should I say, I realized that the issues that I was having, that we were having, were stemmed from the difference in my wife and I's background being raised. I come from a two-parent household, and she come from a single mother household. So she has some issues from being a fatherless daughter that started to come up in our marriage. And as we dealt with that, and I began to look at some things within my own life, I realized that every woman that I had ever dated was a fatherless daughter. And as I got into it a little deeper, diving deeper into my own issues and how that affects with the fatherless daughters, I seen a gap in the fact that most fatherless daughters advocates are female, and so they don't really have the male perspective from it, So it just kind of went from there. I just started talking about it, and I said, well, you know what? Let me just go live and see what happens. See who I can help, and whoever I can help, cool. And if I'm not for you, then that's cool too.
Yeah, it's you're right. We definitely see mostly women that's advocating for the fatherless daughters because, I mean, about right, they have a front row seat into that type of lifestyle. And I guess one thing that intrigued me when you was like, I'm a girl dad. So I think that you have a firsthand look as well, seeing how and interacting with girls yourself and how the impact would be if you were potentially a person that wasn't there as a father.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Right,
that you
right.
do have some experience outside of your marriage, with your marriage too.
Well, tell us some of the
Right.
things.
Actually,
Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, actually, even as being a fatherless daughter advocate, it's still something that I have to work hard on with my relationship with my daughter. And also now I'm a grandfather to two granddaughters. So I see that firsthand, with my granddaughters, the effects that I have and the relationship that I have with them. And then also with my daughter, who's going to be 18 this month. So she's all grown up, but still that dynamic of the relationship, the father-daughter relationship, the grandfather relationship, just that father figure in a girl's life, I get to see firsthand, and knowing the effects of what it is when the relationship is not there, it's a fight every day to make sure that I'm coming through on all cylinders.
Absolutely. So everybody may not even be aware, and I agree with you. When fathers are not present in their daughters' lives, it has a significant effect on them. Can you tell us some of the effects of a child or a young lady not having her father involved in her life?
Well, definitely. Well, so I have what I believe are the core four, right? Which are the four core values that a father instills in his daughter. So the first one is guidance, which would be um, direction and support. The second one is love and affection. The third one is affirmation, and the fourth one is protection. Right. So if a daughter doesn't have uh, if the daughter doesn't have the core four, then by default she'll attract what I call the poor four, which is just the opposite. So instead of guidance, you attract a man that's controlling. Instead of love and affection, you attract a man who may be physically abusive. Instead of affirmation, you attract a guy that uses defamation, that's always talking down to you, and putting you down. And the last one, which is protection, instead of protection, you attract a guy who may be physically abusive. So it's those opposites, because you don't have the necessarily core that your father should have, or father figure should have instilled. So just by default, you're looking for something, but because you have no guide or what you're actually looking for, you will attract these guys that unknowingly to you can tell or can pick up on the fact that you are a fatherless daughter, and sometimes they prey on that.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Yeah. So have you ever seen, well, in your experience, have you seen um women or young girls who have came out of those situations where they didn't have those core four, but they actually did not attract those poor fours that you seen, where they actually in their mind, like, I'm not, because I didn't have that I'm not gonna go down the road of having something that would potentially hurt me.
Yeah, it's definitely possible, and I have seen some, but that instills also that although they may not have had their father in their life, generally they have some kind of father figure, where they're able to recognize those things, and not always. Some of them do on their own develop a successful relationships and a successful balance of what that look like, the dynamic between the relationships between the woman and the man, but a lot of them don't. So if when I talk about being fatherless daughters and having your father in your life, it's not necessarily, it don't have to be your biological father. It just has to be a father figure, whether it's a grandfather, a pastor, a friend, a big cousin, just somebody to kind of give you that balance from the male
Yes.
perspective, and still give you those core four. It doesn't necessarily have to be your own biological father, just a father figure of some sort. So a lot of fatherless daughters do have that, and they do have someone who nurtures them, usually an uncle and definitely a grandfather who instilled those values in them. So even though they didn't get it from their biological father, they did get it. So they, they are able to have a successful, relationship, and a successfully balanced, in their emotions. But unfortunately, all fatherless daughters don't have that opportunity.
It's funny. It's funny where we're talking about this because, our platform speaks a lot about marriage and co-parenting, right? So a lot of the times when you have fatherless daughters or fatherless men and boys, it comes from the breakdown of the family or the split of the marriage or the split of the relationship or whatever. So now you have the father who's left the home, and the mother or the father is left to parent by themselves. So now the children are learning from like a one-eye view, right? So it's
Right.
kind of like apropos that, we talking about fatherless daughters, because a lot of times I think if you was to hear fatherless daughters, like something extreme happened, but really the statistic is that 50% of households are co-parenting, and the father is not home or not present or chooses not to be in the child's life, which in turns is the boy or the female.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, and
then I'm sorry, I think it's a delay. That's why you don't hear me, and then I don't hear you jump in because I think it's a delay. But go ahead and say what you were going to say.
no, I was going to say that I hear you fine. We just try to talk at the same time. But I yeah, I think it's a understatement, when we talk about it, and it's a whole nother conversation when we talk about the structure of things, the way that it's set up for to make it uh, a benefit, so to say, for the woman if the father is not in the picture. With some of the programs and things like that is offered to the single mother, to help her sort of get ahead, if there's no man involved. And then if once a man come into the picture, then it's like, okay, well, we're going to take our help away. So that automatically sets up a precedence that, I'm going to try to make it without you, because I can do it on my own. And then I have other programs that'll help me if you don't come through. Unfortunately, that sets a precedent that we automatically start looking at things different, almost as a you against me type attitude with the father and the mother. If they're not mature enough or just on a financial level where they don't need these programs, and it's like, okay, we're going to work together to accomplish, raising our child, even though we're not, together in a relationship. We definitely still get together in a partnership as being parents, because once that child is here, they're here.
But what are
So
them,
we have to do
what are some of the programs that you referring to when it comes to
Well,
like?
just like let's just say like Section 8 or public aid type programs, for people who or should I say for mothers. Definitely Section 8. I'm gonna say Section 8 because I came into contact with Section 8 my own self in the dating stage with my wife, and that was one of my things when we got together. I was like, I don't want Section 8. I don't want no kind of help, because the way that I see it is when you get on a program and they're giving you something, they can always take it away.
Right.
Right. And that's actually what happened in the beginning stages of our relationship, or should I say our dating period with me and my wife. She was on an assistance program. It wasn't Section 8, but it's sort of set up the same way.
Sure.
And the minute she got comfortable, she moved out this little bitty apartment, actually moved into a house to have more room for the kids and be in a better neighborhood. And she probably was in there 6 months, and they're like, oh, we shutting the program down. And she's like, well, what does that mean for me? So now I got to come up with this whole entire rent. And they're like, you know what I'm saying? So with me, I've always been on that. No, I got it. If we can't do it together without nobody else help, then we don't need it. But if we do it together, if we build it together, we know can't nobody take it away from us.
I agree. I agree with that. I just think that if we think about it, I was listening to another master class about fatherless daughters, and we're gonna stick to fatherless daughters, but sons also have a lot of terrible effects from their fathers not being present. So whether you're a daughter or a son, having your father not present has a negative effect on your life and the person you become, if you're not mindful of trying to overcome that barrier. But acknowledging that fact that, okay, my father is not here, So what? Now what?
Right.
What are you going to do?
Right.
What are you going to do from here? Okay, my father isn't here. The first step in anything is acknowledging it. So you
Right.
acknowledge, oh, my dad's not here and he hasn't been here. And now what? What am I going to do to make sure that my child, if you're a male, that my child has that father there for them, and feed into that child the things that you didn't have, because we always try to give our children what we didn't have. And so that's something major too that I really think is, you know, an epidemic right now with males and the lack of fathers, you know, with their children, period, girls and boys, the lack of their presence. And so do
Right.
you
And
know
you know,
of that some ways that a person who has acknowledged that, okay, my dad isn't here, some ways that they can proceed in a healthy, positive way?
yeah. Let me go back a little bit real quick. Because we first of all we have to start with the parents. And when we talk about starting with the parents, if we think about it, when God created us, he created a man and a woman, and they came together to produce a child. So that's the way that he created it. So not only was it set up that way to produce the child, but it was also set up that way so that that child is raised in a balanced environment with the mother and the father, right? So we have to remember that when we become parents, that it took two of us to create this child, and it's going to take two of us to make sure that this child is raised in a environment that is conductive, you know, for their well-being. That's number one. Number two, that's going to take being intentional, right? So when I talk about parents have to really think about, especially those who were raised without their fathers or mothers in some cases. I'm going to speak from the father point of view right now. I talked about before that a lot of times we have fathers who grew up without their fathers. And growing up, their idea was always, I'm not going to put my children through the same thing that I went through without having my father. But, you know, we fast forward a couple of years and they have kids, but they're still going through that same cycle, right? Because they're not in their children's life as much as they should be. And the reason why is they think about it, it's something that they say, but if you're not intentional about it, it's not going to happen. Right. Because your brain is like a computer, and it can only use the information that you put into it. So growing up without your father, your mental, your personality, everything has been developed in an environment without your father. So it's going to react just on autopilot. So when you bring your kids into this world, when it comes to being a father, your mind has no idea what to go on because it has no experience of being a father. So you have to be intentional about, I'm going to step up. I'm going to, get the help that I need. I'm going to look for mentors myself on what it is to be a father, so I can be intentional about, being in my child's life and really acting out those things. So it's something that I'm doing and not just something that I'm saying. Because if we don't do that, if you're raised without a father, because you don't have that experience and you don't have that, knowledge to go off of, you're going to automatically go into autopilot. And if you're not intentional about being in your kid's life, you'll just stray away automatically, without even thinking about it. And then again, that cycle continues. But if you are a child, whether a daughter or a son, hopefully you do have parents that understand the situation that you're in and they are intentional about it. But if not, then you have to look more or less for a father figure yourself. And when you're looking for a father figure, you want to look for people, number one, or should I say a person, first of all, who's in a position to be a leader, to lead you, right? So that would be a principal, a pastor, an uncle, a grandfather, somebody who's already in that position that it is to lead someone, right? Then the second one, you want to look for someone who's willing because just because somebody's in a position to lead don't mean that they want the job, right? So you
Right.
want somebody who's in position to do it already, so it's already something that they do naturally, somebody who's willing to do it. And then last one is someone whose character is mirrors what you want to become, right? So you do have some fathers out there who that's their position and they're willing to do it, but they're not the best examples, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Right.
So when you're looking for a father figure, those are the three things that I would say look for. Look for someone who's already in a position, whether it's a mentor, a pastor, a teacher, you know, a professor, somebody that's already in position to lead you. Number two, somebody who wants to lead, who wants to be in that position. And then number three, someone who has the characteristics that you want to develop so that everything that you're learning from that person is the qualities that you want within yourself.
It's funny. It's funny that you were speaking about this because, I grew up and my father wasn't in my home, right? And what happens is in your mind, you say, okay, I'm gonna be different than my father, right? Or I'm gonna be more present because my father wasn't there. But what ends up happening is, like you kind of said, is that you miss a host of elements as a dad, but the only one that you really cared more about is the presence. But the raising, the affirming, the instilling and the teaching you may miss because your the thing that bothered you the most about your father not being there was him not being there. So you're putting your stamp on presence, but there's nothing else that comes along with that. So that's what you were saying, seeking that help, seeking that guidance and seeking information so that it can make you a better father, so that when you are there or when you are trying to be a better parent, like you're not just a one trick pony.
Right, right. And that's where it comes to like you said, that being intentional about it. Because if your father wasn't in your life, like you said, generally the first thing that we associate with it is the physical presence of being there. But even when I talk about fatherless daughters, fatherless daughters has a wide array of what that consists of. And one of those is the father is physically in the house, but he's just
Mm-hmm.
emotionally not available. And that could be the same thing, with the son. So he can physically be there, but just
Yes.
not emotionally or attentively there. Maybe he's in the
Mm-hmm.
home, but he's always working. He's in the home, but he's
Right.
Mm-hmm.
always doing stuff and not, maybe he just leave the whole raising and relationship for the family on the mom and say, you take care of that and I just take care of the household. So physically
Mm-hmm.
he's there, but the the nurture of his position in the household is not there, even though
Mm-hmm.
Right.
physically he's there. That's
Yeah.
why we have to be intentional as parents, especially when we've grown up without that dynamic of having a father in the home. That we're intentional about, first of all, us getting the knowledge, so we know what we're talking about and we know what we're doing. Then being able to transfer that same knowledge onto our kids, so that they have a healthy relationship.
But what would you think, or what would you feel that a young lady who is has dealt with the absence of a father, being that is friend to fatherless daughters, what would be the first thing that she would need to do to heal from that trauma, I would say, and that abandonment issue that she has built up, and now she's seeking that love and that guidance and that affection out in the streets per se. Like what would she need to do?
Well, first of all, I would say it's two things. First of all, I would definitely say start with yourself, right? Start with yourself and start looking at the things within yourself that you may know or feel uh, towards your father not being there. And generally, that'll start with the physical. And again, it's just been intentional, first of all, about looking for the knowledge of what it is that your father's supposed to bring in the home. So that's why when I started my platform, I started with, okay, these are the four core that your father is supposed to give to you as a daughter. Because if you don't know, you don't know. So
Right.
if you don't know what you're supposed to receive, you don't even know what you're supposed to look at. And
Mhm.
what I found is that a lot of times daughters, because you don't have the physical form in front of you, you draw in your mind of what a father is supposed to
Yeah.
be by the things around you, whether
Yeah.
it's other people's relationship with their fathers, whether it's TV, whether it's movies or songs. You see the image of other people projecting of what a father should be. And so in your mind, you kind of put all those images together and say, okay, this is what it should be. So because you don't have your own idea or your own experience, the first thing I would say would be to look toward or look into mentorship or look into information of what it is to be fatherless, right? So that you first of all start with you and realize the things that you're missing, right? So then once you realize the things that you're missing, then the second thing I would say, think about think about it first, reconnecting with your biological father, right? In some way. So when we talk about reconnecting, first of all, you got to know why you want to reconnect with.
That may be traumatic for a young lady or an adult woman. Like, oh, I don't want to. That may spark me to be, or whatever. Like it's hard to want to go reconcile or want to go seek information from your biological father because you felt like
Right.
this person didn't want me.
Right.
Definitely. And that's why I said think about it first. I didn't say act on it first. Think about it first. Because you have to think about it. So even when thinking about it, I have 4 steps when thinking about it, right? Before you even talk to him, this is something you have to deal with yourself. First of all, you have to think about why is it that you want to connect with him in the first place, right? Why
Mm-hmm.
do you want to connect? Is it for answers within yourself? Like what is it that you want from it? Then you have to think about uh, whatever answer that he gives you for him not being there. If you're looking for an answer, it's never going to be acceptable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he can
Right.
come up with whatever answer means the mama was fighting, whatever. And if you're looking for some kind of answer that's going to make you feel better, it don't exist, right? It don't exist. No matter what he's going through in the midst of it, and at the end of the day, that didn't stop him from being a father if he wanted to be there. So don't
Right.
expect this answer that's gonna make you say, "Oh, okay, it's gonna be great," right? Then uh, predetermine what it is you want to accomplish by him coming into your life. So if you're an adult, you don't need a daddy. You're already grown, right? But you still need that relationship. Or you might not want a relationship with him at all, but you might want him to be a grandfather to his grandkids and give his
Mm-hmm.
grandkids um, the father figure, be the father figure for his grandkids that he wasn't for you, right? So you have to predetermine what that is. And then the most importantly, you got to realize or you got to think about, can you forgive him for not being there? That's the number one. Before you even talk to him, before you have a conversation with him, can you forgive him for not being there?
Right.
Because in a father's presence, I found out that a daughter or some fatherless daughters go through some bad situations. Whether it's from the mother treating them wrong, whether it's from being abused from other people, whether it's from sexually abused, whether it's from someone else taking advantage of them. In the absence of the presence of the father to protect a daughter, a lot of times they go through a whole lot of stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff is bottled in. So before you can even think about reconnecting with your biological father, you got to be able to answer yourself honestly and say, can you truly forgive him for not being there to protect you for whatever it was, whatever reasons, because if you can't, then definitely that's open up a box that you don't want to open, because all it's going to do is give you more unanswered questions and make you more angrier,
Right.
But if you adjust or if you think about it within yourself and you say, yeah, I think I can forgive him for not being there, then that's the first step.
I say it was something that you said I wanted to just touch on real quick, right? and you was like, as an adult woman, like she don't need a daddy, right? Like a daddy in the sense of the little girl daddy, right? But
Right.
one thing, and I'm not challenging it. It's just, I'm a father too, and I got a daughter and a son who are adults, right? And at this
Mhm.
level, or at the level that they are as teenagers, we have different conversations to where she needs me or he needs me at a different level. And it brings me to a conversation that rest in peace, my mother-in-law, before she passed, when she had a conversation with me about her father, right? And at the level she was in her life, she needed a different level of guidance, right? So
Right.
him not being there for her in her stage of retirement, she needed to think about what I want to do next. I need to be affirmed in this area. But he wasn't there. So it's only that when you said that, oh well, she doesn't need a daddy at that moment.
She doesn't. She needs a father.
She need her father
Mm-hmm.
Right.
to
Right.
put right. And that's what I was saying,
Yeah,
a daddy in that sense. But
because a lot of women, that's where it goes left, is because once they reconnect with that father, it seemed like they're wanting to recapture
yeah.
the years in which they
Yeah.
lost instead
Yeah.
of starting from there. So if I was to speak to someone and they were, discussing about how they want to meet their father, their biological father who wasn't present, and they are intentively seeking that presence in their life, you were absolutely right. Self-reflection is the first step. Why? What is the big deal? Why do you feel,
Yeah.
ask yourself these hard questions. Okay, Alicia, what is the big deal that you feel like you need to meet him now? You haven't met him all these years. Not me. I knew my father my whole life.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that's a sentence that they can ask themselves, like, so why? Just a simple why. Why do you want to reconnect with them? And then after you figure out that why, then you decide how you're going to allow that person, which is boundaries, how you're going
Right.
to allow
That's good.
that person to participate in your life and your children's lives.
Bingo.
Because a lot of times you can think like, oh, he's back, and then he leaves your kid hanging just like he left you, or he leaves you hanging again. So that's another thing. So after you have that self-reflection and determine the reasons why you feel it's necessary to have him in your life at this juncture, then you're going to set up boundaries of how you are or are not going to allow him to participate in your life. You know what
Right.
I'm
You know what?
saying?
Do you think that the boundaries
Yeah.
need to be first? Do you think the boundaries
No,
need to
because
be
your
first?
first step is understanding the reason why. Because if your
No,
reason
I'm
why
saying
doesn't make sense, then
after her why, the
Mhm.
boundaries need to be the
Absolutely, that's
next
why I
step.
said
Yeah, okay,
next.
right.
Absolutely, I agree.
Definitely. So let me jump in here real quick. First of all, let me apologize for the slip of the tongue. So when I said that she don't need a father right then as an adult woman, again, I agree with you 100%. That's not to say that she doesn't need her father, but she doesn't need to be raised in a sense as a little girl coming up, in that sense of it, right? But definitely still needs her father, because again, like you said, it's just your father on a different level. I don't need you to be, to take me for ice cream. You know what I'm saying? But I may need you to I may need you to make sure I know how to change a tire. You know what I'm saying? I may need you to make sure that, if I feel some type of way that, something going on in my house, you could come look at it, or something's going on with my car, you could be able to come look at it. I do need a father in that sense. So you never like outgrow being that father. One second, I'm sorry, y'all. That's my wife calling me now. Excuse me. So, but you never outgrow needing that father figure and that father's presence in your life. It just changes as you get older, right? And the role changes as you get older. And another thing, one of the things that I talk about, once you do reconnect with your father, is exactly what you was talking about, Alicia, is to make sure that at any point, don't feel some type of way, or should I say, don't hesitate to walk away. If it's not giving you what you need, if you're not receiving what you need, if he's not, nourishing the relationship that you need on that the level that you need it on, walk away. You know what I'm saying? And don't feel no way about it. And you have to think about that. And another thing that I talk about again, what you said with the boundaries is the way that I put it is make a space for him, right? So if you're going to reconnect with him after you talk to him and it's like, okay, this is something we're going to do, give him a space, but you only give him a box. We're not giving him free range to come in and out. No, I want to see you on holidays, right? If you can do that, then we'll talk about, maybe seeing you a little more, maybe exchanging phone numbers or something like that. But first of all, you got to get to step one. If I can't see you, it's what, 3 or 4 major holidays in a year out of 365 days. If I can't count on you for those 4 days, why would I even think I can count on you more than that? So again, it's recognizing those boundaries and just give them a little space, and they have to prove themselves. If you're going to be active now that you're coming in, prove to me you can show up for me for my birthday. Let's just start there. You know what I'm saying? Let me get a birthday call on my birthday once a year and say, hey, happy birthday. Let's start there. And then once you show me you can be consistent, which is the key word, consistent with that, then we can open up a little more. Maybe I'll give you a little more space, a little more activity in my life. But we're not just opening up the door and saying, yay, daddy's home. No, it don't work that way.
I think one time we Alicia and I was listening to it was something on social media where a gentleman was fathering a child that wasn't his, and he was kind of calling out the dad for him to step forward. And it's so many situations where you cannot be present with your child, right? But there are situations where a father didn't even know that he was a father of a child because of maybe shame on the mother's part. She was shameful. She didn't want to present him as the father, and the gentleman she was in a relationship with or whatever was not the father, and she just didn't want to present herself that way. So when you're talking about setting boundaries and expectations and things like that, there are a lot of fathers that, hey, I didn't even know you were mine. I didn't even know that I had a daughter or I had a son. So now our expectations of each other has to be not aligned, but we got to compromise on this expectation, right? Because I didn't know of you. You know what I mean?
Right. But then that goes to the foundation of any relationship, and that's communication.
Bingo.
Whether it's father, daughter, boyfriend, girlfriend, just mutual friends, whatever, every relationship starts with communication. And that's where you start from, especially when you're reconnecting into your child's life, whether you knew about it or not. It still starts with a conversation and a honest open up of your heart. This is where we at and where do we go from here? And that's as a dynamic that starts to build that relationship between the father and the daughter, or should I say the father and the child, just having that conversation to say, okay, this is where we are. Where do we go from here? What do you expect from me? What should I expect from you? And do we both agree that that's something we can give? And then that goes back to, do you want the job? Because even after you found out you the father, do you want to be my father? You know what I'm saying? So if that's something, if you can give me what I need from you, and I can give you what you need from me, and we both agree on that, then we know that we can move forward from here and grow. But if you didn't know in the first place that I was your child, and now that you found out you still don't want to be there, that's the end of this conversation. Bingo. You know what I'm saying? So again, it starts with a conversation and definitely being honest, on everybody's part, whether it's why the mother didn't tell the father, or did she tell him and he just wasn't there, or whatever it is. It has to be a conversation, because I've seen, unfortunately, some experiences that it wasn't there. I've seen a mother tell a daughter who had contact with her father, definitely not as much as she wanted to. And for what reason, I still don't know the reason why the mother told the young girl, who she's like 18 now. I still don't know why she told her this, but for whatever reason, she told her, well, I don't know why you're trying to get close to your daddy when I got pregnant with you. He told me to have an abortion, right? I have no idea why she would
Toxic
tell her
right
daughter
there.
that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
toxic
like I
right
said,
there.
I have no idea why she told her that. But uh, the daughter called the father crying, saying you didn't want me, whatever. And the father had to explain. First of all, we both were young, and that was a
Right.
conversation that we both had. You know what I'm saying? Because we both wasn't ready. So it wasn't like it was just him saying that he didn't want it. You know what I mean? But again, we had to have those honest conversations. And again, even with, like you said, Alicia, if you just toxic, man, look, you gotta get over yourself for the benefit of your child. Whatever
Yeah,
happened, again, a bad boyfriend, a bad husband does not automatically make you a bad father, right? So just because y'all relationship didn't work out, too bad. He's still a father, so allow him to be who he's supposed to be in his child's life.
absolutely. I agree 1,000% with that because in that particular situation, that child has, a lot of times when these situations arise, they don't want to hear the truth. And the truth is,
Mm,
I probably did want your mother to have an abortion.
Yeah.
It wasn't with you because I
Right.
didn't even know
right,
you. We
Say that
didn't even
again.
know who you were.
right. You
I
weren't even here
wanted
yet.
I didn't want to be a parent at that time, and it's okay. I was young. It
Right,
didn't have anything directly towards you, even
Yeah.
though it happened to be you.
You're
I
right.
didn't know who the baby was. No one knew because the baby wasn't here yet. So
right,
absolutely I did. And then just ownership. That parent owning it. Like, yes, I absolutely did. Or once you came, I still didn't want you because I was young. I didn't feel like the struggle and this and that. And whatever it is, it's about being honest, being
Hmm.
direct,
mm-hmm,
and just saying exactly what occurred and the reasons why. Because as you said, nothing is going to make it okay that you weren't a part of my life.
Bingo. That's it.
Nothing is going to make it
right,
okay. And so, therefore, it doesn't matter really. And so, if we have to give more direction, why do you want this person a part of your life now? And then you're going
right,
to set up the boundaries of how you want that person to be in your life and how you want them to move and how much will you allow them
right,
to be in your life and participate with you or with your children? Or you may want to just start off with just you because you're nervous that he may not be consistent and you don't want that in your children's life. Whatever way you
right.
decide, but then three, you start from there. You start from
Right.
here where you are. Let's not keep going back to the past of how this came about because it matters not. Actually, let's start here. Let's
Right.
start from where we are and move forward and decide how we're going to move forward and what that looked like to us.
And just like
Right.
just
And
like
then,
your shirt say, I think the one of the things before we even that a young lady should do is to heal from that and not have any expectations in the beginning. But I appreciate Minister Ernest James. I think you got a awesome ministry. I think you got an awesome platform,
Yes.
and I think it's very much well needed. Friend to fatherless daughters, man, you guys please go follow Mr. Ernest James, Minister Ernest James. Is there any parting words that you want to say to the audience or to your followers or future followers?
yeah, yeah. First of all, let me say in that situation that I just spoke about, it did work out. The daughter and the father was able to talk about it, and they worked everything out, and their relationship is fine today. But in my partner, I just give four steps that I have with the fathers when a father is reconnected with the daughter. Number one, remember it's about the child. Number two, it's your job to protect the child. Number three, um, prove your love by your actions. And number
Mhm.
four, make sure um, your presence now will outweigh whatever they've heard about you in the past. because the mother can talk about you, talk you down, whatever. You're not here you weren't there to defend yourself. But now that you're in a position, make sure that whatever was said about you in your past, your actions now outweighs all of that.
Yeah.
Right. So that's my advice for the fathers. Again, I thank you guys so much for having me on. I hope to be back, at another time.
Absolutely.
Again, for the listeners, you can find me on Instagram at friend2 fatherless daughter. That's friend the number 2 fatherless daughters, and that's where I'm at. If you can look me up there. You can click the link in my bio to go to other pages and things that I have going on.
Well, man, that's what we have. I'm extremely full. I think I done learned some things today, and man, I'm sure our listeners got something out of this too. So we'll see y'all in a minute.
All right.
Peace out, family.
Let's wait.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Family Dynamics Podcast with Kevin and Alicia Meeks.
Thank you, guys.
Please like, subscribe, and comment. And don't forget to follow us on social media at The Family Dynamics.
We'll see y'all in a minute.
Bye.